No matter where, of comfort no man speak, let's talk of graves, of worms and epitaphs. Make dust our paper, and with rainy eyes write sorrow on the bosom of the earth. Let's choose executors and talk of wills, and yet not so. For what can we bequeath save our deposed bodies to the ground, our lands, our lives, and all our bowling brooks, and nothing can we call our own but death, and that small model of the barren earth which serves as paste to cover to our bones. For God's sake, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings. How some have been deposed, some slain in war, some haunted by the ghosts they have deposed, some poisoned by their wives, some sleeping killed, all murdered, for within the hollow crown that rounds the mortal temples of a king keeps death his court, and there the antic sits, scoffing his state and grinning at his pomp, allowing him a breath a little seen to monarchize, be feared, and kill with looks, infusing him with self and vain conceit, as if this flesh which walls about our life were brass impregnable, and humoured thus, comes at the last and with a little pin bores through the castle wall, and farewell, king. Cover your heads and mock not flesh and blood with solemn reverence. Throw away respect, tradition, form, and ceremonious duty, for you have but mistook me all this while. I live with bread like you, I feel want, taste grief, need friends. Subjected thus, how can you say to me I am a king? Welcome to my channel. My name is David, and today I'm talking about the tragedy of King Richard II, a historical play by William Shakespeare. Now, this is the first of the Shakespeare plays I'm going to talk about on this channel. It won't be the last. And I did this as a buddy read with Margaret Pinard. Sure, her channel is going to be linked down below. She is a great booktuber and an author, so be sure to go and check her out and maybe check out some of the books that she's written to see if they sound interesting to you. I know she writes historical fiction set, I believe, in the 1800s, so definitely be sure to check that out if you are so inclined. But on to King Richard II, and this is going to be rather brief, and the reason for that I'll talk about at the very end of this video. As a whole, I really enjoyed this play. I give it a 4 stars out of 5. It is one that I did not appreciate earlier in my readings of Shakespeare. In fact, I didn't appreciate any of the histories the first time through Shakespeare, and I've come to really grow to love them. And while King Richard II is one of my least favorite, in the cycle of 4 that are commonly grouped together, with being Richard II, Henry IV Part 1, Henry IV Part 2, and then Henry V. It's definitely a really good play, and it sets the scene for everything. And so the first thing I want to talk about here is a question that was kind of raised by Margaret Pinard in some of our discussion about this, and it's about how the topic of divine will comes up often in this play. And there's very good reason for that. This is setting the stage, so to speak, for everything that's going to come in England's history from this point on until essentially Shakespeare's current time, with the monarch that he has ruling in England. So the cycle is going to go through the War of the Roses and then all the way up to the Tudors. And if you know anything about that period of English history, you know that it is very tumultuous in terms of who has claim to the crown and everything like that. And so Richard is the king who has inherited the throne through the common way up until that point, through inheritance. He was born to it, and so it was believed that it was brought to them by divine right, that they had the will of God on their side to rule and to be in that role as a king of England. And so the main thrust of the plot here revolves around him exiling some people, one of whom comes back after his exile and eventually usurps the throne from him. Uh, a blood relation of his takes the throne because Richard II is viewed as a very weak king, and so it raises the question of what is more important, divine right in a rulership, that the king should be king whether he is a good king or not, whether he is a reliable king, whether he is a competent king, because he has the backing of God through that heritage, or if the more capable person, somebody who is more suited for the throne, should by their have the right to depose that ruler and take their place and lead the country in a with a much more practiced hand. And so that's the real thrust behind this, and it's something that echoes throughout the whole War of the Roses with the Yorks and the Lannisters, and it's still a question that is kind of in play with the Tudors as far as establishing who should hold the throne and why. And so this is part of why divine right is echoed so strongly with Richard II, because this is the point where it's going to start this whole catalog of events that's going to lead through all of this tumultuous time. And Shakespeare, writing on the backside of that, is able to look back and see those things and raise those questions and maybe emphasize them a little more than they might have been in historical nature, but to definitely place things on one side or the other of the argument. And as you read through the Shakespeare histories, he's got themes that underlie the Yorkist beliefs. He has themes that underlie the Lancastrian beliefs in there. And so he's really towing the line between both sides and showing both of them as being viable over the course of the cycle of plays. Now, I'm not naive enough to believe that the historical plays are for everybody. Margaret is fully justified in not enjoying it, and I applaud her for getting through it. I hope that she continues into the next three because they get better from there. The next three plays are wonderful readings, and if she is so inclined, and if all of you are inclined, let's get into my informal announcement here that in September, I'm going to have a Shakespeare September, so to speak. We're going to read 4 plays. I'm going to read 4 plays. I don't know whether you will or not. I hope that you join me in this. 1 per week throughout the month of September, and there will be more formal stuff made ahead of time. Each week will kick off with me kind of giving an overview of that play, kind of setting the scene for it and what to expect without spoiling anything of what you're going to encounter over the course of that play. And then ending with kind of a little recap review at the end of each week, where I'll go in more depth than even I am here, because along the way through those, I'll read the introduction and the notes, which I skipped this time around, because in September, we are kicking it off with the tragedy of King Richard II. I know Margaret probably won't join for that week, but hopefully she'll join for the other 3. But I welcome all of you to read it along with me. I'll have it in my Discord, where we'll have a channel for each of those 4 plays that we'll be reading. So the next play we'll read is Henry IV Part 1, and then Henry IV Part 2 the following week, and then we'll end the month of September with Henry V. And on top of that, I would challenge you to also watch The Hollow Crown. There is a series that was made recently. They're Shakespeare, it's taking these 4 Shakespeare plays, and they made almost a movie-like adaptation of each of them, with some really familiar faces that you'll see among the actors and actresses. And the one I've seen, I think I watched Henry V, and it was really, really well done. If memory serves, that's the one that has Tom Hiddleston as Henry V. I think David Tennant is Richard II. I know both of them feature in there. Both of them have done a fantastic job from the clips and everything I've seen of them. I think it's on you. It's either on Netflix or on Amazon Prime to be able to watch The Hollow Crown. I'll have all of that before we get to September to know how you can watch it. But I would challenge you to immerse yourself in the 4 plays to watch the Hollow Crown adaptation. And like Steve Donahue says about Shakespeare, Shakespeare may not be the best thing to read. I mean, you know, sitting down with this, going through reading it cover to cover is not going to be the best way to experience it. And it's not going to be for everyone. It's not going to be the way to enjoy it in the maximum way possible. So don't feel like you actually have to open the book and read it to read along with us. Go on YouTube. There's performances, live performances that are available to watch for free. Check one of those out for each of the plays each week. Then you have 2 different showings that you can watch, a live actual performance of people performing the play, and then the Hollow Crown adaptation of it. And both ways you'll be able to have plenty that you'll be able to talk about and you'll be able to enjoy as it was meant to be enjoyed and experience the play and all of the stage elements and everything that's going on. And it might be a little easier to keep track of the people that come and go on and off the stage because sometimes there's a lot of bobbing in and out of figures in there. So I hope you'll join me. Henry IV in particular has 2 of the greatest characters in all of Shakespeare with Prince Hal and Falstaff. So I'm looking forward to diving into those and discussing them all with you, hopefully in September. So that has been my review of Richard II. Again, I really enjoy it. Don't feel like you have to read it. Find a way to immerse yourself in it. If you're more of a visual learner, more of an auditory learner, that's okay. Because it might be tough to read through, but watching it might help a lot. And these 4 plays, including Richard II, even though it is the weakest of the 4, are absolutely worth reading or watching and being familiar with, because while they are never going to be the most popular of Shakespeare's works, because they're not tragedies, they're not comedies, they tell great stories. They put an interesting spin on history, and some of Shakespeare's best writing can be found in these 4 plays. So I hope you join me in September. Thank you for watching.